Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Heart-Based Business Show. I am so happy that you're here with me today because I have something really important I want to talk to you about: being paralyzed and not being able to move forward in your life or your business. You probably know what I'm talking about because you might have been in that position just very recently. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because I have been talking to clients just recently about this very thing. So let me give you a minute here and then I'll be right back with you. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm so glad, as I said, that you're with me because this is such an important topic today. And I don't have my doctor's coat on. I'm sorry. I thought I'd wear something a little more autumnish so that I kind of blend with the season. I'm in San Felipe, Mexico, and it gets cold this time of year. And then when I look out my window, there's the beautiful Sea of Cortez. And people love to come here and worship the sun. But today is a chilly day, so I wore my fall colors. Anyway, let's get to our topic. First of all, I want to thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll subscribe because I do this once a week. And it's always great information about how to grow your business. I've been through it all. I know how to do business. And for those of you who don't know, I started out with 15 cents in my pocket. 15 cents. And there was a time, I tell this story about going from dumpster diving to diamonds. There was a time when I had nothing in my pocket. And I have two wonderful boys, but at this time they were very young and they like to play in the sand and do fun stuff that way with cars and Legos and things like that. But on this morning, I had heard that there was a place where I could go to get watermelon. And the store, you may have heard this story before, the store had thrown out all these watermelon into a dumpster. And they said, you can have any watermelon you want. Well, the kids and I went like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was holding on to their little hands. And we were all pretty excited that we were going to have something other than rice and beans, because 15 cents does not buy much. I was making my own bread. I was doing everything I could to feed the boys, but didn't have a lot of money, obviously. And so here we stand in front of this dumpster, and I look over to my left side, and I see all these people coming out from under a bridge. Well, guess what? They wanted the watermelons too. The strange thing is that they would go into the dumpster one at a time and then try and hang on to it, because they didn't know a lot of people there, but had tried to hang on to it as they climbed out of this big green dumpster. I stood there and I watched and I thought, well, first of all, I have no intentions of going into any big dumpster for any reason. I had come from a lot of money and I was just down at a time when I least expected it. And this watermelon, I guess, sounded pretty good at the time. But watching these people go in and out of the dumpster, that didn't set well with me. And suddenly I get a lot of information from the ethers. Maybe you do too. Suddenly I got this message that said, this doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't one person go into the dumpster and then just hand them out to each person that came up to the dumpster so that everybody didn't have to climb in? And then I got this other message that said, that's the sign of a leader. You need to go back to work. Well, I hadn't gone to work because I didn't trust anyone with my sons. I didn't know anyone well enough to leave them. And not only that, because I didn't have a job, I actually couldn't afford to leave them with anybody. It was a big decision, right? It was a really big decision. And I was scared to death I would make a mistake with my precious sons. So I didn't go to work at all. And I just stayed home and took care of them. I certainly couldn't afford to pay anybody to take care of them. And they loved to play in the sand and with their buckets and whatnot. And as I was standing there thinking this with the boys, my oldest son, who was 7 at the time, said to me, "Mom, I don't need any watermelon. Let's not do this." And he said it at exactly the same time as I made the decision not to get one. Now, we have to make decisions all day long. You may have noticed that. And our decisions affect our future. Wouldn't you agree? Sometimes that's why we're afraid to make a decision, is because it affects our future. But I made the decision, okay, fine, we'll go back. And as I went back to our 18-foot trailer, I told them, you guys go play if you want to, no problem. I sat down with an 8.5 by 11 yellow pad, you know, a legal pad. You've seen those things before. And I just did a brain dump of everything that I needed to do to move into my next step in life. And a big part of it was removing the anger or removing the behavior that I had exhibited in the past. I had to make some shifts in order for my life to turn around, because if we don't realize that some things are our own fault, then it never can turn around, because we keep walking with that anger and that hate and that feeling that people have done the wrong thing to us. When the reality is, people do things to us, but it's how we perceive what they have done that makes the difference. So let me go on with my story. So I'm sitting there writing on my pad, and I could see out the window my children were playing with the seagulls and building sandcastles and running their little trucks around in the sand. They had no idea what I was struggling with. It was my own struggle. And they were just happy little kids, as they always had been. They didn't know, and they were perfectly fine with the rice and beans for now. So as I'm sitting there, I hear this knock, knock, knock on the door. And I think, oh my gosh, who is that? Because we were literally living in this trailer on the beach. It was my trailer. And I had a truck hooked up to the trailer. And I didn't know how long we were going to be able to stay, but I had very little gas left and nowhere to go. So there we sat. So here's this knock on the door, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what now? What else could possibly happen? And it was the woman that I had gotten to know up the way, and the boys knew her too. And she said, you know what? I've been thinking a lot. I know that you need to go to work. And I said, I know, I really need to go to work. I have a lot of skills. It'll be very easy to go to work, but I don't trust anybody with my boys. And she said, well, would you trust me? You know where I live. You've been to my house. And the boys know me. Would you trust me? And I said, well, I can't afford to pay you. Honestly, I only have 15 cents left in my pocket. That's all I've got. And she said, you need to go to work. And I said, yes, I've had that thought already today. And so we made an agreement that she would take care of the boys. And she did it out of the goodness of her heart. And I didn't have to pay her. And she said, I'll take care of them until you get a job. So she did that. Right away, I went to work to find a job. And it only took me a week to find one that was a really good paying job. And then I could find a place to put the boys. So things were working out really, really well. Each one of those decisions turned out to be a good decision. And as a result, I went back to work, I started making money, and because I had written all these things, they're actually in my book, Selling Through Your Heart, what I had written. it shifted my whole life, my whole perception of where I wanted to go with my work, what I wanted to do with my business, and how I was going to move on in my life. Everything shifted for the positive, and it all started at the point that I made that decision that I was not going to dive into that dumpster. And also, if you think about it, the reasoning behind someone going in and handing it all out to each person is a leadership decision, right? That's something a leader would think. And I'd always been a leader. I had multi-million-dollar company before this, so it wasn't like I hadn't had any money. I had just gotten down on my luck. Have you ever been in that place? You might be, if you have been, the person that I'm trying to reach today. Think about it. If you're down on your luck, you don't have to stay there. As I said, my story is from dumpster to diamonds. So what is that diamonds part I'm talking about? Well, let me share with you how I put together a California C Corporation. And over a period of 7 years, I built my business up to 23,000 employees. And over 17 years, I made a hefty income. And I had a $125,000 payroll every couple of weeks. Now, I've left out a lot of steps, but that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is the decisions we make and the fear of making a mistake. Now, at that time in my life, I couldn't have, what more could I do to make a mistake short of leaving the children with somebody I didn't know and didn't trust? And I just wasn't going to do that. And when it comes to our kids, you know, I don't have to tell you, we have to be extremely careful. And if I had no money because I had no place to put my children, that's just what was going to be, because they were number one. Now, what I want to talk to you today is about how to overcome your fear of making mistakes. Each step of the way, I needed to make a choice in order to grow that business and have 23,000 people as my employees. Wouldn't you agree? That's a lot of people. So every person that came into my business, I had to make a decision about whether I was going to hire them or not to support me in what I was doing. Now you're probably wondering, what in the heck was she doing? Well, I had a document signing service at the time. And in fact, I had the number 2 document signing service only under Fidelity Title. They're the only ones above me. So each person that I hired all across the United States, I had to make a decision about whether they were a good fit or not. And believe me, I made a lot of mistakes. I also had 15 people working in my call center inside. And I made a lot of mistakes in who I hired too. But if you don't make mistakes, you never learn anything. Did you hear me? If you don't make mistakes and you're sitting in a comfy little place and you never make a mistake, you're not learning anything. You came here to Earth to learn things, not just to sit on the couch in a comfy little place. I mean, it really sounds nice right now, but the reality is, if you are not making mistakes, you're falling behind. So you want to make these mistakes. I call them golden lessons. And boy, have I had a lot of golden lessons in my lifetime. When you think of what I had to go through in order to build that business, in order to sell and market what we were doing as signing agents, and what I had to do to sell, to get accounts, there's a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. And I think I made them all probably. Sometimes when we make a mistake, we get beaten down. And when we've been beaten down and told that, you know, that we made the mistake and that we never should have done that and we had no right to do that. And who do you hear that from? You might hear it from family members. They're really good at this because they think of you as still 16 years old. I think when my dad died 2 years ago, he was still thinking about me as a 16-year-old. And we move on a lot from the age of 16. I'm sure you'd agree. But yet the family knows all the mistakes that we made as a child, and they hold it against us for a lifetime. And then they don't support us when we want to do something that really makes a difference in our lives. But I want you to know something. I'm going to change this around a little bit so you could think differently about it. When they beat you down, or they tell you that your opinion doesn't matter, or they say, oh, I told you, you never should have done that, or you'll never make it in that business, understand that's just their fear talking, their perception of what you should do and what you should not do based on safety of money, safety of your body, safety of your time. They're looking at it from a different perspective. I can never advise my sons now because I look at life from a different perspective. I'm older. I may not be willing to take as many risks as I took when I was younger, and I'm comfortable. So it's a little different than when you're in the place that I was in with only my 15 cents. And do you think I had a fear of spending money at that time? Oh yeah, totally had a fear of spending money at that time, because where was I going to get the money at the first place? I just had a client I was talking to yesterday because I have a course called the Heart-Based Profitability Program, and it teaches you how to not only create your business course, but also how to price it. And then we talk about too, how to sell it. That's a really big deal, because what good is a program if you can't sell it? So I said to her, this woman that it was my client in the past, I said, what are you thinking about with regard to coming into the course? It starts right away, and I think it would be perfect for you. Oh, I'm afraid to spend money. I've spent so much money and it really hasn't gotten me anywhere. And I'm going to go to Puerto Vallarta and see if I can work on the internet. And I really haven't been working at all, but I really just don't want to spend any money. And I said to her, but you'll make your money back in the first 2 months. As soon as you do your beta test, you'll make your money back that you're going to pay me. It's not that much money. And oh no, I don't want to make another mistake. Did you ever watch Winnie the Pooh? I always think of Eeyore when I hear somebody, oh no, I don't want to make another mistake. Oh, bother, right? Think about it. She could have taken the course, learned how to create a course, done her beta course, and paid herself back almost instantly. Any course that I provide, I want you to pay yourself back for it almost immediately. And that's part of what I build into the course so that you do get paid back. And I told her that, but she stayed in her Eeyore behavior, which was kind of sad because she has so much potential. It's unbelievable. And I see that with so many people. They're afraid to take the step forward. I love working with entrepreneurs who've been with other coaches for a couple of years. They've spent a lot of money there and they're still not making any money. Those are the people that I love to pick up and make money rain on them so that I get to see their smile. That's what I love. But let's go back to what we were talking about. Don't worry about making a mistake, because that is your golden lesson. As I said just a minute ago, if we make no mistakes, we grow. Not at all. We don't grow at all. And in fact, we just sit there and nothing ever happens because you've made another mistake. And it's called doing nothing. Because she made a decision to go to Puerto Vallarta and she's not working, and she didn't want to take a little 6-week class that would get her start making her money, That was a mistake. So not doing anything is also a mistake. It doesn't matter what you do, it could be a mistake, but it could also be the best thing that ever happened to you. Don't ever feel like a mistake is a failure. Don't ever let a mistake paralyze you into not making another one. I never could have gotten where I am today if I hadn't made one mistake after the next. I've made so many mistakes, you could paper the walls with them. But I call it tacking back and forth. If you've ever experienced what it's like to be on a sailboat, or, well, a sailboat's a perfect example because they go this way and they go that way and they go this way and they go that way in hopes of getting to their ultimate goal. But they do this a lot, back and forth, back and forth. And that's what I do with business too. We try something out or try something else or try another thing. And fortunately, I've made all the major mistakes. So when you work with me, you know that I've already been through the biggest mistakes. I know what works and what doesn't work. And I know that sometimes mistakes cost us quite a lot of money. And that's a lot of times when you are with a coach that hasn't been in business long enough, or you didn't hire a coach that's doing what you want to do in the future. But in any case, it's always good to hire a coach because it keeps you moving forward. Well, my goal is always to keep you moving forward with income, because it makes no matter if you're not making an income. What's the point, right? What's the point? So think about what you could do. Could you sit down and write out a plan to move your business forward? And maybe it might look like, the first thing might look like, I need to hire a coach that will teach me how to do this next step that I need to do right now. I want you to keep in mind that if you go into a group course, the coach is speaking to the whole group, not just to you. If you come into a one-on-one with me, we move so much faster and we get everything done that you want to get done as soon as possible. That's the whole goal. But either way, you want to work with a coach because you don't know what you don't know. And you want to stay away from making as many mistakes as possible that you don't have to make. And that's what you're paying for when you hire a coach. And let me tell you, the higher up you go, the more expensive the coaches are. My coaches are like $30,000 a year. That's a lot of money. But when you make the kind of money that I make, you don't worry about 30,000. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. When you start making money based on what the coach has guided you to do, it pays you back almost instantly. And you move on and make more than you ever thought you could possibly make. But let me go back. Have no fear of making decisions or making a mistake. And that first step that you take always takes you to the next higher level. But if you don't take the risk and you don't take the first step, you are going to stay right where you are right now. That may be the biggest mistake you ever make. Don't paralyze yourself. Keep moving forward. Keep looking for the answers. Let yourself chalk up any mistakes you make as a golden lesson. You wouldn't be where you are today if you hadn't made the mistakes you've already made. So hopefully you've made good mistakes and you're at a good place right now. If you haven't made good decisions and you've made mistakes and you're not in a good place right now, then this is the time to take a major risk, to get the right coach and pull yourself out of that 10-foot hole. I always say, when we make a mistake, we end up down a 10-foot hole, the rabbit hole, right? And it takes us a while to come out. If we try to come out on our own, it will never happen. You have to be shown the way. It's the only way to get where you want to go. Well, I hope that that was really good information for you. Please take it to heart. Don't worry about it. Honestly, don't worry about making a mistake. Just know that you made a decision. And when you make a decision of some kind, something good always happens. So I'll see you next week on Wednesday. Have a fabulous week and make a few decisions, will you? And let me know the outcome of the decisions you've made. I would love to hear about it. Bye-bye.